The sticky trap in TF2 is one of the easiest ways of getting kills due to how simple yet effective it is. All you need to do is place 2 stickies in a common choke point and to wait for the enemy to come by before quickly detonating. It's easy, strong, and versatile. Now of course some sticky bomb launchers do this better than others, with stock being the most common, but there is one sticky bomb launcher which I think has it beat, even if it's just by a bit. The Scottish Resistance is one of those items where people use it for a bit before quickly going back to their original playstyle, leaving it in the dust. But I think it's too good to be left in such a sad state. It shoots significantly faster than stock, meaning you're able to clog up a choke point way faster, putting more pressure on the enemy team to either get rid of you or the stickies. To complement this playstyle, the launcher has an increased ammo count as well, so you won't run out as easily as you would with stock. So you can sticky trap faster and more often with these changes, which makes racking up kills much easier. There's also the added bonus of having more stickies in your clip. First off, TF2 calls them pipe bombs for some reason, and secondly, this is a double-edged sword. Although you can make sticky traps bigger and more deadly, there's also the problem that you have to reload for longer and quite possibly more often. However, I don't think this is too much of an issue because it's not like people come to sticky traps super quickly anyways, so you should have some breathing room eventually. But listen, there's something even better than all of this. The Scottish Resistance, unlike any other sticky bomb launcher, can choose which stickies to blow up. This one feature alone changes how you play Demo Man entirely. Now I want to address something here because there's a lot of misconception when it comes to this weapon. What I see loads of people do with this weapon is that they block off 2 different choke points at the same time. You should not be doing this in most instances. Yes, there are situations where you can do it to some extent, like in the warehouse on PL Frontier, but that's rare and still difficult to pull off. You might be thinking, well, how else would you use it? Isn't that its function? Even TF2 itself suggests to do this with the tips. First off, really? You're relying on the in-game tips for advice? Come on, this is the most obvious and basic stuff I've ever seen, and half the time it's not even accurate either. Secondly, the correct, okay, maybe not correct per se, but rather better way to use the Scottish Resistance's manual detonation is to use the stickies as a sort of backup trap. Let me explain. This is CP Dust Bowl. Now let's say that you're on defense and you plan on making a sticky trap in front of the enemy spawn. Now this is fine. It stops enemies from pushing into the point as easily. Usual stuff. Now let's say hypothetically a spy attempts to backstab you, but fails and dies like an idiot. Now because you weren't watching the choke point for like 2 seconds, the enemy team have pushed up slightly, but enough to be away from the bomb's explosive range. However, what we can do in hindsight is to place another sticky trap nearby, such as here. Now this trap is still hidden and out of sight, and because we can detonate our traps separately, it's a secure position. So as the enemy team pushes in, they get destroyed by this trap too, effectively making up for the absence of the first trap. If you want to, we can repeat this process, because we have like 12 stickies in one clip, so we can put it somewhere else, like here. You could also use it to defend yourself against spies by placing 1 or 2 behind you, but this comes at the risk of either blowing yourself up or blowing yourself out of position, effectively giving the team a free kill. If we were to make 2 traps, like here, then using other traps will be significantly harder, as we have to constantly shift our focus onto each trap. This makes you really susceptible to things like flanking scouts or spies, who would probably target you anyways. Now this plan sounds good on paper, but obviously there are flaws with it. The enemy team can simply kill you and all your traps will be gone, just like that. Classes such as heavy or even opposing demo men with certain sticky bomb launchers can just remove the traps entirely. You might not actually kill anybody with the traps, and some maps and game modes just won't give you very good chances to set up traps, in which case, the Scottish Resistance just isn't very good. Speaking of maps and modes to play, usually choke heavy maps like Dust Bowl, Gold Rush, and even 2 Fort work really well with the Scottish Resistance due to its trapping playstyle. As for modes, you want to play mostly payload or even capture the flag, but you gotta make sure you're on defense, not offense, for a reason we'll get onto later. So outside of those niche situations, it's pretty good. You might be thinking, why would anybody use stock over this? Well, there's one stat that I haven't mentioned yet, because it's a single thing that kills this weapon for many Demo Man mains. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to 0.8 second slower bomb arm time. What this basically means is that your stickies take longer to detonate, effectively killing sticky spamming. That's it really. You can't really sticky spam with the Scottish Resistance. Listen, sticky spamming is great and all, but it's not the main use of the sticky bomb launchers. They're supposed to stick. It's in the name. Yes, sticky spamming works well in most situations, but there are still so many flaws with it, so using a sticky bomb launcher just for that actually puts you at a huge disadvantage. Any good scout, spy, pyro and soldier will easily be able to abuse the delay that stickies have. Yes, the Scottish Resistance doesn't help with this matchup, actually worsening it, but the Scottish Resistance doesn't promote this playstyle whatsoever. This weakness is also why I don't recommend using this thing on more open maps like Badlands or most King of the Hill maps, because the lack of choke points reduces this weapon to mostly carpeting the floor with stickies to spam, which it isn't really good at. This weapon involves you to know where to use it. You can't just bring it in whenever you want to, because sometimes you'll get crushed by the sweatiest scout player or a spy that hates your guts. Now, apart from that minor drawback, there are also some other issues with the weapon. As said before, the increase in bombs in each clip can increase your reload time, which Demo Man already has a problem with. Another problem is sticky jumping with it, as unlike all the other sticky bomb launchers, because you have to have your crosshair on the bomb, you kinda have to treat it more like rocket jumping, which can be a nuisance sometimes. And because the Scottish Resistance promotes a trapping playstyle, you might get tunnel vision when it comes to your traps, making you weak to flanking classes such as Spy, Scout, and even Soldier or Pyro. As for what I would use it with, I think the Iron Bomber and Loose Cannon are the best choices. Now because, assuming you can't get a trap ready, you're reliant on your primary more, the Iron Bomber's weird hitbox makes it far easier to hit your shots. So if you're less confident in connecting pipes because of the tendency to sticky spam, then this is a good option. The Loose Cannon's knockback can also be extremely useful in case you get rushed down, giving you more breathing room to lay down a quick trap. You can also push people into your traps for a devastating combo, but I wouldn't focus too much on this. It's more like a haha funny moment than anything serious. It might be overshadowed by his other secondaries, but I think that this weapon is overlooked by demo players as unreliable and weak. I've seen many people suggest that this is actually Demo's worst secondary, which I really don't think is true. I recommend trying this thing out again, just don't sticky spam with it, that's my main advice. What I also recommend you do is to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in another video.